Big fan of winning. TexAgs Radio. Actually, it's TexAgs Rewind. It is about TexAgs Radio. And today on the show, it was fun. We talked about the Aggie basketball victory over Tennessee. How about that? They just do what they do. That was fun to do. We talked about it with OB, who was there last night for it all. We talked a little recruiting with Bronny, who had some good updates to get into, so you'll hear a little bit of that. Logan Lee called the show. We kind of broke down the game. I asked Logan, if this team did beat Wofford early on, right, would they be maybe a top 10 team in the country? He's like, I don't know. He's like, not because of how they're playing, but because maybe they needed that moment. So you can hear that analysis. And Kendall Rogers, D1 Baseball. All that and more. It's TexAgs Rewind.
Watching A&M, you're going to like this, is like watching the old Batman TV show.
Wow, you could have picked anything but that one.
Yeah, the old Batman, because they start out, they're in trouble, it looks dire, and then bam, bang, pow, they come back, and they win. You know they're going to now. You just assume, but it's always like, it looks like you're in such a perilous situation.
Yeah,
and then somehow they come up with this something out of their utility belt to change momentum. Bang, boom, pow, and they prevail in the end.
Can we make that a hotkey? We really need to get hotkeys on this show. Just drop it. Bang, say it again.
Bang, boom, pow.
I love
Isn't that what they always did on
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And it was Boots, Wade, Marble.
Well, right now, it's the Wade Taylor show.
Wade Taylor was Batman. Julius Marble was Robin.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
And I guess Boots was Alfred. Or maybe Buzz.
He was Green Lantern. No, Boots, he was a little quiet at times, but then he hit the big shot.
Boots had an up and down kind of night, but he had a big three. He had a rebound and put back, and I think he got fouled on it, on a rebound. I thought there was no way. He's 6'2", and the ball looks like it's caroming a foot over his head, and he jumps out of the gym almost and pulls it down. And like I said, they just make the plays that have to be made.
Yep.
They do some things from time to time that'll help. I don't want to say help, but kind of contributes to the opponent hanging around a little bit when they look like they're going to put them away. Then there's some mistakes here and there, or they don't get a defensive rebound there, and the other team just. But by gosh, when it's on the line,
they figure it out.
They're often on the line.
You brought up being raw. I'm curious. Youth sports, there's this keeping up with the Joneses mentality, right? Like you got to have this personal trainer, you got to do this, you got to play in this league, you got to play that league. How do coaches view raw when they are in high school and they're like, is it something they feel like we can coach this guy to where he needs to be?
Yeah, and a lot of times you got to have the skill set, and you look at it and like, okay, what's he running? What's he jumping? What kind of frame does he have? What's he going to grow into? How bouncy is he? How twitchy is he? All that kind of stuff. But I think sometimes you refer to kids as raw that are in a new position, like Josh Lair, right? So he has just now become a defensive back, so that's why he's raw. Some kids are raw because they grow so fast so early that they're just kind of all over the place in terms of their coordination. But if they can ever get things going in the right direction and get everything synced up, it's pretty special athletically. So there's different reasons why you call kids raw. But in general, when you use that term, you're talking about somebody with elite athletic abilities that is, for whatever reason or another, is just not fully either developed in their position or fully translated in terms of the coordination in their body catching up with the frame. So they're lacking some strength to go with their frame.
Not only controls their own destiny, they can go high.
I mean, I think it's always okay to enjoy the ride. You enjoy the ride right now. I'm enjoying this ride as we go. I think there's a difference in saying this team's going to win the national championship right now, as opposed to saying this team's going to win the SEC. And not only are they going to win the SEC, but it's going to catapult them into a tournament championship, maybe a tournament championship title, which would then get them in I'd venture to say a 1 or 2 seed in the tournament. Probably more likely a 2 seed, just depending on the road that they have to go through in the tournament and what happens with Alabama and all that stuff and everything that's going on over there. But yeah, if you have an A&M team that wins out, because it is not out of the imagination to say that they go to Mississippi State and win, they go to Ole Miss and win, and then they beat Alabama at home. Right? If that's the scenario, they're 16-2. They have at that point, they would have dare I say, a top 10 ranking. And then if they go and say they get to the championship game in the conference tournament, you're looking at that point, they'd probably be a 2 seed, maybe a 3 seed, just because that's what I've come to expect as a fan. From a fan's perspective, that's what I would come to expect. But hey, what's wrong with thinking about that?
Yeah, how about that? The kid at Old Dominion. And here's the other thing that's really interesting, David, and keep an eye on this as the season progresses. Opening weekend this year, I think there were 852 home runs hit versus 713 last year.
Wow.
We thought the balls were kind of juiced up last year. And frankly, let's be honest. We all saw some of the balls like Dylan Rock. I think back at Dylan Rock's ball against TCU where you're thinking like it's going to be caught like before the warning track, and it just kept going and going and going. And I think now, like, hey, like if those balls were juiced, what in the world is in the ball this year if that many more home runs are hit? So keep an eye on that. Speaking of Tyser and Power, that the rest of the year, because boy, the ball was just flying out of the yard over the weekend.
Hey, actually, that made me think of something to ask you. What I know as we were getting closer to the season, coaches were upset with some of the changes in college baseball after having a weekend and some change to discuss. Have you heard anything like? Is it as big of a deal as they thought coming into it?
Well, Jim Schlossnagle certainly had a pretty passionate tweet about it. I'm not sure I'm as enthusiastic as Schloss is about this, but but I do think when you look around the country that every coach, every player, and by the way, every umpire I talked to did not like it. They thought it's way too much on the umpire. I was at Globe Life over the weekend at the College Baseball Showdown, and the home plate umpire, he's got all these other jobs he's trying to do. He's trying to call pitches. He's trying to get everybody set between pitches or between at bats. And like he's over here with a hand signal behind his back when he's getting a crouch position to start the clock. And like these umps have a lot of stuff to worry about, that they don't need to be worried about, signaling to someone to start a clock. Like it's on a basketball rush. So I just think it's a little bit too much for the umpires. The feedback I've gotten from the umps wasn't great. But at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is just like Major League Baseball. They realize that they're competing for eyeballs on television sets, and they're trying to make college baseball games shorter. Now, I will say, I think the average college baseball game over the weekend, this is based on a return of 70% of the box scores. So it's not a full, survey of every single game, but if 70% of the games we're able to gather, the average game is 15 minutes shorter than last year's opening weekend. So it's making a difference. The question is it, will it be more annoying than it does? Will it be more annoying than it will be like, just making people mad? Because, let's say we're in a super regional. Let's say A&M and Ellis or A&M and Texas are playing in a super or something. And I mean, imagine if the final run scored on a clock issue. I mean, over the weekend, 4 guys walked because of the expired clock, and 4 batters struck out at Globe Life because they weren't in the box in time.
No jokes today on the TexAgs Rewind, but Nick can tell everybody what to do with a big smile.
Like, subscribe. They're not going to be able to see the smile. Like, subscribe, comment, watch our shorts, share with your friends, watch the Rewind, subscribe on TexAgs.com. Bye.
Were you smiling?
Of course.
All right.